Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Day two from Charlotte, North Carolina. We have a great show for you, though. Doesn't matter where we are, we still bring it to you every day. First, the case of Nancy Guthrie. The family has officially been cleared. Singer David, spelled with a floor. Well, he's the person of interest, and there's some stuff going on with the grand jury. Jill Biden's ex-husband, William Stevenson, set to enter a not guilty plea in court today. Ryan Routh appeals his life sentence after being found guilty of the Trump golf course assassination attempt. A Texas father avoids manslaughter charges in his daughter's shooting, but the UK, yeah, they're saying it's unlawful. We've got this day in legal history, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out anytime from any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, before we get started, let me remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. Find out what's on your history. Find out what's on the history of anybody else coming into your life, okay? Let's say it's you. You want to find out, why can't I get a job? What's coming up? Maybe there's some old charge that's there. You can try to figure out if it's not legit, get it removed. Things you can do. You're going to find out if you're checking out other people. You're going to find out email addresses, social media presence. You're going to find out if they're married, divorced, judgments, liens, criminal history, and of course, one of those public registries we hear so much about. Go check it out. And remember, you can cancel it anytime. So whether you want to do one search or 1,000 searches a day. Now, as I mentioned today, and you saw yesterday, we're on the road. We're not in the Crime Talk studios. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina for a sentencing that I had to do in a federal case, a good old white collar crime type of case. Anyway, I love coming to other U.S. district courthouses. Let me just tell you this right off, okay? The courtrooms here are amazing, all right? In the Denver U.S. District Courthouse, typical square courtroom. They all look the same, probably designed just terrible all designed by the same people. They're terrible. You come down here to the South. I've said this before. The Charleston Courthouse in Charleston, South Carolina, amazing. So this one today, I walk in. I don't think I've ever seen a jury box this way because it wasn't a box. All right. You had the judge's bench right up front, and I wish I could show you a picture. I tried to get the permission from the marshal so I could take a picture, and they wouldn't let me do it. So imagine this. You got the judge's bench right up front, all his court staff to the side of the judge, right? And then 2 rows, literally like a big old horseshoe in front of the judge's bench. So the jury is looking out at the witness who's right in the middle, and they can also see people's interaction taking place in the gallery as well. Apparently, this is a return to the Jeffersonian type of jury box that was quite used during the colonial times, but somehow they decided to condense it and put them off into a corner somewhere. So I just thought it was really cool. Maybe we can try to find a picture of this, but I tried. The marshals wouldn't let me take a picture in the courthouse. The marshals in South Carolina years ago were kind enough to let me do that, but I had to get permission. Today, they were not having it. Anyway, things went better than expected for our sentencing. Always nice when the client walks out the door, even if he's still got to report to the Bureau of Prisons in, the next 4 weeks or so. But it's better than the 2 previous guys that both got remanded that day who seemed a little shell-shocked. So we came out better than everybody else. So that's a good thing. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket. Thanks for let me tell you my little story. Let's go ahead and get to the docket today. First, Nancy Guthrie case. The family has officially been ruled out as suspects. That's right. The Arizona authorities have officially ruled out the family of the missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie as suspects in her suspected kidnapping. Yet the high-profile case continues into its now 3rd week without any identified perpetrator or confirmed location of the woman. February 16th, that's yesterday, Sheriff Chris Nanos publicly declared the entire Guthrie family, including Savannah, Annie, brother Cameron, and their spouses, cleared of any involvement. Now, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. Nanos put out in a statement, adding that the relatives have been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and they are victims, plain and simple. He emphasized that the continued speculation against them was cruel and defended them against online attacks. Now, despite the family's clearance, no suspect has been named, and the multiple non family individuals were briefly detained for questioning last week but released. Investigators have collected more than 40 to 50,000 tips, with the FBI offering now up to a $100,000 reward. And a black nitrile glove discovered 2 miles from Guthrie's home showed preliminary DNA from an unknown male that preliminarily matches the glove seen in the doorbell video. However, some people are describing this as nothing more than a red herring due to its distance from the scene and the preliminary nature of the testing. Additional DNA was located inside the home. So, unless that glove matches the DNA in the home, may not be of any interest. It could be my DNA. Heck, it could have been some of the people walking around trying to help locate Nancy Guthrie who discarded gloves. Apparently, it's a thing down there in Arizona. I guess you throw your gloves out in the middle of the desert. Not really sure, but apparently it's a thing. Anyway, Savannah Guthrie posted on Instagram expressing hope, obviously saying that they still believe and it's never too late to do the right thing. Obviously, I think reality is setting in here a little bit for the Guthrie family. The longer this goes, not good. Now, I've said this for several weeks now. None of this made sense. I didn't suspect the family. Had no reason to suspect the family. The brother-in-law dropped her off, or somehow last to see her from her Uber ride, which that was a little weird. I'm not going to lie about that. But the reality of it is, this does not fit the typical kidnapping mode. I've said this before. I have never kidnapped anybody, but I've represented several people who have, and then have tried to get ransom. And the ones that do the ransom route, they go straight to the source. They don't take somebody, hide them for several days, and then go through TMZ, for God's sakes, and the local news channel to try and get a ransom note to the victim's family. That makes no sense. I think the more plausible route was a home invasion, burglary gone bad. Well, why would they take the 84-year-old woman? People panic, ladies and gentlemen. People panic all the time when they're committing crime. That's usually why most people get caught, is they do something stupid. Had a guy years ago, didn't really realize DNA was out there, I guess. He would go in and do burglaries, and it was kind of his little MO, kind of a little disrespect to the people in the house, is he would smoke a cigarette in the house. Well, little did he know that that DNA could be found on that cigarette butt, and they ultimately got him for a series of burglaries. People make mistakes. People panic sometimes when they're committing crime like that. So we'll have to wait and see. The longer this goes, probably the more unlikely this will be. I don't believe the notes that keep coming into TMZ, how convenient that now Nancy Guthrie is in Mexico, but please pay me, $100,000 in Bitcoin, half now, half later. It's all scam. Someone's just trying to be opportunistic, try to make a few bucks. It's unfortunate. Next on the docket, singer David named the person of interest in the dismembered teen found in the trunk of his car, while his family appeals a grand jury subpoena. So the Los Angeles police continue to investigate the 2025 death of the 14-year-old named Celeste Rivas, whose dismembered body was discovered in a Tesla registered to singer David, spelled with a 4, and his real name is David Anthony Burke. Now, while the artist's family is also now trying to fight court orders to testify before the grand jury. So what we know, Rivas was last seen in spring of 2024 when she left home to attend a movie with Burke. She was then 19. Her remains were found on September 8th of 2025 inside an abandoned vehicle near Burke's Hollywood Hills residence, and the 20-year-old musician has been named as a person of interest, though no charges have been filed against him as of yet. And the grand jury has been examining the case as a potential murder case. You think? What did she accidentally trip and fall and become dismembered in the Tesla? Really, of course, it is a homicide. Anyway, Burke's parents and brother, who all live in Texas, were subpoenaed as material witnesses, but filed petitions with the court claiming insufficient information in redacted affidavits, alleging that violated their due process rights. A Texas Court of Appeals upheld the lower court's denial of the request on February 10th, scheduling a hearing for February 24th. Now, the LAPD has also sought to restrict release of autopsy details, keeping the official cause of death private. So, witnesses include, going before the grand jury, Burke's tour manager and a streamer friend that have already testified, and the probe remains ongoing with no public filings indicating any charges as of yet. Rivas's family has cooperated with authorities throughout. Next, Joe Biden's ex-husband going to go to court and enter plea of not guilty. That's right. William Stevenson's, the first husband of First Lady Jill Biden, is scheduled to appear in a Delaware court on February 18th to enter a plea of not guilty to the first-degree murder charge in the death of his current wife, Linda Stevenson. The couple has been married since after Stevenson's 1975 divorce from Jill Biden when they lived in the Newark area. Now, Linda Stevenson, 64, was also found unresponsive at their home on December 28th of 2025. Following obviously a domestic dispute, William Stevenson was arrested and has been held since February 3rd because he is unable to make the $500,000 bond. He has no listed defense attorney in the court record, so more likely the public defender is going to represent him. Stevenson founded the well-known Stone Balloon music venue in Newark in the 70s, and Linda ran a bookkeeping business and was remembered in her obituary as a devoted mother and grandmother with no mention of her husband. Her daughter described the loss as paralyzing. Jill Biden's office has declined to comment, which is reasonable when you've been divorced for almost 50 years, for goodness sakes. That was a lifetime ago. We won't hold it against her, all right? Next, Ryan Routh. He doesn't like his sentence and he's appealing it. So Ryan Routh, who was convicted last year of attempting to assassinate then candidate Donald Trump at a Florida golf club, Mar-a-Lago, has filed an appeal challenging both his conviction and his life sentence in prison. So the September 2024 incident occurred at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach while Trump was golfing. Prosecutors said that Routh spent weeks planning the attack, staking out the course near the sixth hole and pushing a rifle muzzle through the perimeter fence. He was spotted by bystanders before Trump entered the line of fire, fled after Secret Service agents fired at him, and was arrested shortly thereafter on a nearby highway. Routh was found guilty on all 5 counts, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate. That's a big no-no. He represented himself, so he knew things weren't going to go well, and he did that after dismissing his court-appointed counsel. Ultimately sentenced to life in prison, despite requesting a 27-year sentence, Routh has now filed a notice of appeal to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Grounds include alleged trial errors tied to his self-representation, the judge's refusal to recuse, and the terrorism classification of the offense. Well, Mr. Routh, however you pronounce it, guess what? I think it's Routh. He waived most of those issues when you represented yourself, and any legitimate issues were going to be made by the real attorneys in the courtroom. But hey, you wanted to play assassin, you want to play attorney, how tough could it possibly be? It looks like you failed at both of them. Next, a Texas father avoids charges in Texas, but, well, things aren't going so well in England. So body cam footage and a recent UK coroner's inquest have shed some new light on the January 2025 shooting death of 23-year-old Lucy Harrison by her father in Texas, where local authorities declined to indict, but a British court found the act amounted to unlawful killing through recklessness. Now, Chris Harrison fatally shot his daughter Lucy in the chest at his Prosper, Texas home on January 10th of 2025, just as she and her boyfriend, Sam Littler, were prepared to fly back to the UK. Harrison told responding officers the gun, quote, just went off, end quote. while he was retrieving it from a locked bedside box to show her after a conversation about guns. He claimed he placed the weapon on the bed immediately after the discharge. Now, a Texas grand jury declined to indict Harrison. However, at a February 11th, 2026 inquest in Cheshire, England, where Lucy lived, senior coroner Jacqueline Devonish ruled the death unlawful, concluding that Harrison pointed the loaded gun at his standing daughter without checking for ammunition and pulled the trigger. To shoot her through the chest whilst she was standing would have required him to have been pointing the gun at his daughter without checking for bullets and pulling the trigger. Devonish stated, describing the action as gross negligence despite no intent to kill. The coroner accepted Harrison had been teasing, but noted that he was reportedly intoxicated after drinking white wine that day. Now, witness Littler, the boyfriend, testified the pair had argued earlier about politics, including Donald Trump, and that the fatal incident followed a discussion about guns. Lucy's mother, Jane Coates, said the ruling has finally given Lucy her voice back, and Harrison did not attend the inquest. The case continues to draw a lot of attention because you got gun safety issues. Hey, been there, done that, done this case, done this trial. Gun just went off. I'm just saying there's a gun out there that kind of has a reputation for just going off. Had an expert. Heck, I had the attorney for the gun manufacturer watching on WebEx thinking, thought we'd won it. Nope, jury came back criminally negligent homicide. You don't even get me started about the negligence standard in criminal cases. But interesting case, just went off defense. If it was a particular firearm, perhaps. But as the DA said in my case, don't care if it was a faulty manufacturer. It just went off. And the reality of it is you shouldn't be pointing guns at people. You need to assume that they are always loaded. And obviously when you have a round in the chamber, it may just go off. You got to always assume that. So you got to be careful. Next, this day in legal history, February 17th, 1801, the House of Representatives elects Thomas Jefferson as president. That's right. So after the 1800 presidential election resulted in a tie between Democrat Republican Thomas Jefferson and his running mate Aaron Burr, both receiving 73 electoral votes due to the original Constitution's lack of separate ballots for president and vice president, the decision went to the House of Representatives. Over 36 ballots across 6 days, the House broke the deadlock on the 36th ballot and elected Jefferson president with Burr as vice president. Now, this event ended a major constitutional crisis, highlighting flaws in the electoral system and directly led to the ratification of the 12th Amendment in 1804, which requires separate electoral votes for president and vice president. And it's a foundational moment in the United States constitutional and electoral law, often noted in Supreme Court history contexts for its implication on separation of powers and the democratic process. How about February 17th, 1964? The United States Supreme Court decides Westbury v. Sanders, establishing one person, one vote. What a radical idea. That's right. In a 6-3 ruling, the court held that Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution requires congressional districts within each state to be roughly equal in population to ensure fair representation. The case challenged Georgia's district, where population disparities were extreme. One district had over twice the population of the other. Writing for the majority, Justice Hugo Black emphasized that as nearly as is practicable, one man's vote in a congressional election is to be worth as much as another's. The decision was a key part in the Warren Court's reapportionment revolution, building on Baker v. Carr in 1962, fundamentally shaping voting rights, redistricting law, and equal protection under the 14th Amendment, and it remains central to modern gerrymandering and districting litigation, which is once again before the Supreme Court as well. Since I was out here for a white-collar criminal case, how about a little quote about white-collar criminals? This one comes from Edwin Sutherland. He is a sociologist regarding white-collar. White-collar crime may be defined approximately as a crime committed by a person of respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. Well, needless to say, that little definition doesn't fit very well. So now basically, white collar crime is used to involve fraud, deception, any kind of crime of moral turpitude, so to speak, but not, that good old fashioned street crime, blue collar crime where you're slashing and killing and all that kind of stuff, I guess. But it seems like a lot of white collar guys are killing people too these days. But we throw that out there. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Once again, the case is from Florida. And nothing says I'm sorry I cheated like a face full of Chick-fil-A, apparently. That's right. Please meet Theodore Anderson, our dumb criminal of the day. He turned a quiet takeout dinner into a misdemeanor mess on February 13th when he allegedly hurled a spicy chicken sandwich at his 28-year-old girlfriend, well, particularly her head, during a fight over suspected infidelity. Not content with the poultry projectile, he followed it up with a full cup of blue Powerade, giving her an unsolicited shower in their shared living room. Now, according to the arrest affidavit, officers arrived to discover the sandwich already disassembled on the floor like it had lost a cage match with gravity. They wisely declined to bag the evidence, probably figuring the lab techs had suffered enough. Anderson, to his credit or detriment, reportedly owned up to the airborne entree immediately. Now, the victim told police that this was far from his first course in the Rocky III relationship, claiming prior incidents of physical abuse. Anderson, who allegedly has a 2022 conviction for a violation of a domestic violence restraining order on his rap sheet, was booked on a single count of misdemeanor domestic battery, food battery, once again, ladies and gentlemen, food crime. Where does the madness stop? Anyway, he cooled his heels in the jail for one night before posting a $5,000 bond on Valentine's Day because romance clearly was not on the menu that night. Anyway, no contact order now keeps the pair apart, which is probably for the best. One more argument and someone might have weaponized the waffle fries. Anyway, in a city famous for its sunshine and senior citizens, this little domestic spat proves that even the most polite fast food chain can't prevent a man from going full batter up. Anyway, next time, folks, maybe just eat the sandwich. It's a lot less expensive than having to post bail. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. I'll be back in Denver tomorrow. We'll be back in the Crime Talk studios. We'll see you then. And remember, until then, the Constitution matters.